All right, it appears we are live. We had an error on our last video. This is an attempt to open up live chat again. So this is the second video for the same day. We'll see if anybody joins us. Beverly Sanders, hello, and how are you doing? Glad you're joining us. So yes, we had an error where we were unable to either see anybody's chat or conversation. So this is a follow-up to the video we just had. Layla's Kitchen, welcome from New York, and Layla, welcome here from Texas. Glad to have you. I guess I'll go over some brief stuff again since this is just another video. Again, we just made this video, but we're unable to chat with clients. All right, so the video schedule. For those that are new to the channel, we do Monday live video shorts, which are 60 seconds to let you know about the videos we're going to have on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Sundays. So the Monday videos, 60-second video is going to be at 10 a.m. Central Standard Texas time. And then Tuesday educational videos will be at 10 a.m. Central Standard, and those will be a little longer. Thursday, we have live videos, chats, news, updates, and featured guests, including attorneys and other consultants related to my field. And that's at 2 p.m. Central Standard Time. And again, you can find the schedule in the bottom as soon as I get a chance to put it in there. We have an every Sunday live video, which is a chance and opportunity for Q&A. It features, again, the Q&A. And it typically is going to cover the services that we offer as a company. Now, as a brief introduction, real quick, so I'm going to do it all over again. My name is Jay. I am the owner of Section8Consulting.com. We work with around 1,000 people a year, sometimes even more than that. In the process of doing that, we work with people that are trying to navigate the system, that have issues related to housing, vouchers, discrimination. And beyond that, we also address low-income housing, affordable housing, issues related to landlords, housing authorities. However, we don't do anything defensively against HUD itself. I think 23 years in business so far, and you can find out a lot of our business information on this. We do our federal filings, state filings, county filings. I think we got 300-400 views, whole lots of stuff you can go out there and take a look at. All right, so I'm going to jump back over here to the live part. Cutie Pie, I remember that name. Welcome back. So glad you're here. Get ready for that Arctic blast, guys. You know what? Most of you live up north, a big portion, so that's nothing to you, right? You brush your teeth with snow. Down here in Houston, you move about 8 inches down to the Gulf there, and we're going to get a wipeout at 17 degrees and plus a lot of ice. And how does that affect the Southerners down here? Well, I'll tell you, it'll knock out the power grid for the entire state of Texas like it did just 2 years ago. And then again, I'm going to say the same thing I said in my last video. It's bad enough that people out here drive like an asshole, all right? You add ice to that, now we have assholes in the ditch. And so my problem isn't the temperature, it's just the people trying to drive on ice. They know they can't do it. And so in my little town, there's already been a run on toilet paper. Now, I don't know how we connect mentally toilet paper to COVID or toilet paper to snowstorms, but people really have tricked out. You know, next there'll be a run on tampons. I'm not trying to be offensive, but let's get real here with this crazy stuff. I remember when they had the run on crackers. Apparently, somebody decided he needed to buy all the crackers and then sell them on eBay for 3 times the cost. They call it inflation, but I think the reality of what we're facing is everybody's just trying to price gouge everybody, trying to make that fast nickel. All right, guys. All right. So, Glenn Johnson, hello from Washington State. I used to live there in Seattle. You're probably not in Seattle, but I tell you what, Washington State on the coastal side is actually a very beautiful mountain right near the Cascades and so on. It's probably where I'm going to retire, somewhere in Washington. And Melanie Page, welcome back. I remember you. You're a frequent flyer here of the channel. So I'm quite enjoying that. Cutie Pie says, Glenn, hello from Eastern Washington. So you got a lot of people up in Washington. That's good to hear. Keep it real. I like that name, actually. I wish I had chosen that as my channel name. Happy 2024. Well, it's a happy 2024 to everybody. And one thing I want to remind everybody is, no matter if you live in Minnesota or not, don't go out there and take unnecessary risks in these temperatures. If it's 17 degrees and I'm 8 inches from the Gulf and you're up there, it's probably going to be 30 below. So unless you're used to tanning during winter in Chicago, please don't go out there and act like an asshole and freeze up, okay? If you're homeless, sleeping in the car, and other issues, I would advise reaching out to our office, okay? Not so I can bill you or charge you. We need to get you somewhere safe because these conditions are dangerous. I've got a lot of cats and they're going to despise the hell out of me, but I can tell you what's going to happen. We're going to have to bunch all up in my house, okay? Because I can't have them out there. I don't want to see no kitties frozen to the grass. And some of my cats are crazy. During the summer, it was 114. Now, you know, cats, despite knowing they're roasting on the patio, will continue to lay out there like they've got no good sense. I don't expect anything better during the freeze. And so I got to lock them in the house, and then there's going to be a lot of bitter emotions when you have as many cats as I do. They like to hash it out. So, all right, move on back to the comments. GTS, how do I find out what type of voucher I have? I'm a senior citizen. Well, I'm sure you already know the obvious. You would reach out to your caseworker at the housing authority. There's some potential that one of the federal employees at HUD at a regional office could answer that question. But typically, you should. Your voucher is actually just a request for tenancy, and it's either in digital form through your email or it could be in paper form, but it should indicate the type of program and how it's funded. If not, you can always reach out to us, and we might be able to figure it out. You can email us a copy. Cutie Pie says, you should move to the Tri-Cities of Washington. It's beautiful here. Look, anything in Washington, when you can actually get a row of mountains, you get Mountain Rainier in the background, this gigantic mountain that blew up back in the 80s. And then you get the Cascades. You're out there by a big old bay. You can see subs and even whales. And you get these towering, I call them pine trees, but they're not pines, actually. Yeah, it's something to behold if you enjoy just a pure nature. But if you like the desert, move to Texas. We'll be happy to give you a cactus in your purse and send you on your way. But I really need to get back to somewhere much nicer. I'm not saying Texas is ugly. I'm just saying that shit. I got better things to do and better places to see, and not all of Texas is nice. There's a lot of places that are kind of barren. All right, moving on. Beverly Sanders, did you get my messages? Well, Bev, I do not see any prior messages in this current one, but do keep in mind, Beverly, we had to remake this video. So we just had this video a few minutes back, probably about 10 minutes ago, and the chat wasn't working properly. This is a quick video we've thrown out just so we can chat with you guys. So my answer to that, Beverly, is probably not. Glenn Johnson the second, what can be done with housing authority corruption? A lot of things, a whole lot of things. You can get HUD's regional office involved. You can get OIG involved. You can get the feds involved. It depends on the case. The main thing that you need to understand, Lynn, is if you're not going to reach out to those organizations, you can probably want to reach out to a consultant or a company like mine that understands it, files cases, or reach out to an attorney. It's really up to you. Go with whoever you fundamentally believe can get the desired outcome. Our office specializes in over 20 years, and we partner with attorneys and other organizations. But ultimately, without knowing the critical details of the case, whether or not it's factual, what the claim would be, without actually going and actually getting the information that's required to be able to ascertain the merits of the case. And I don't know. I couldn't really tell you outside of just contacting more broad federal employees and agencies. Beverly says she was previously did with my living aid. Okay, so apparently there's a chat within the chat here. All right, Beverly Shannon goes on. I have such bad anxiety over this. I sent them a video. Sorry, I thought my other messages were above, so now they're all out of order. I think YouTube's having a problem right now with connection, is what it is. So, our first video we attempted to make like this, couldn't get any chat at all. Now comments are coming in at different times. So, we're just going to try to wing it. Nobody get offended if you don't get your questions answered. It's never guaranteed. I'm out here for free on this YouTube video. Not charging anybody a nickel, so I don't want to hear any bitching and moaning about, oh my God, I've commented 30 lines ago. I feel super entitled right now, and I'm going to cry if you don't answer my question. Look, I'm here on my own free time. I get to you, don't worry. All right, so moving on from there, let's talk about, so we're going to rehash the same thing we made in the last video. This is sad, but it's true. Moving on from there, I'm going to recognize the silver member. So for those of you, we have membership directly through YouTube for those that Want to thank us, for the information things we put out. We do educational videos, have so for about 15 years, teach a lot of Section 8. We do speaker events for Legal Aid Society. We work with different organizations. We do training and counseling for counselors and caseworkers, and even take over caseloads for homeless shelters that are overloaded. In this case, the membership is specifically designed for two things. One, you get a cool badge, so when you're chatting with me, I get to recognize you as a person. And of course, if you like the badge, then you got a cool badge. Number two, for those of you that love animals, you're pet lovers. I have a cat rescue. It's a personal thing. It's not a business, and I use membership fees specifically to pay for vet bills and cat food and so on. If you want to get a membership, just do it because you want to. Okay, nobody's here to solicit you. We're not running a charity. None of that. Let's be clear. Membership started at $2.99, right? So it's not going to break anybody's bank. So if you like memberships, you should check out our join button and then see if that's something you want to do. Okay. Moving on from there, we're going to talk about housing, low income housing, affordable housing, and the market conditions again, a second time. So, again, from January, we think about it in terms of a season. It's just like the holidays and shopping. From about September to April, we have the demand for vouchers falls off a cliff. For those of you seeking out housing vouchers and affordable housing, the demand starts to decline, where people seek it starting September. It reached its pinnacle in January, and especially in January because you're in a new year and a new federal budget, right? So that's prime territory. Now, this will continue to be in a glorious area until about April. And then the descent into hell starts as we move into summer because most people are a lot like most animals that are doing things, right? And what I mean by animals, I mean that when spring and summer hits, that's when we want to do things. So as you get to summer, it becomes hellish. The demand becomes insurmountable during the summer as we get closer and closer, and the possibilities of getting this quickly starts to fade. Oh, and look, we got somebody here. I want to introduce you to one of my office managers real quick. So I'm over here smacking my lips about cat rescues, right? Let me show you one. This is Mama Girl. She came to visit the baby. She's a big girl too now. All right, she's not into it. And I was about 3 seconds from a clawing if I didn't let her down. But otherwise, she's a good girl. So that is Little Mama, and she used to be a Little Mama. Now she's Big Mama. She can still make it up the tree, and she's knocked off about 8 squirrels, about 10 moles, and she brings me birds about once a week. So never underestimate a lady with a few extra pounds. Never underestimate that. She is a absolute killer. Except for my Siamese, I would say that she's my Siamese. You'll meet her. She's an expert. All right, moving on from there. Looks like Beverly's got a long string of different things being said here. But yes, the video is live, Miss Sanders. Glenn Johnson, what would happen if Section 8 never existed? Well, our cities would be filled with homeless people, approximately a million or more. And so what would happen is you would walk down the sidewalk in your flip flops, and then you would probably be stabbed in the foot with fentanyl, crack pipes, and everything else. And then there would be people dying everywhere. That's what would happen. Most elderly would be probably shipped to a concentration camp since there'd be no money for housing for them. We would take the disabled and go ahead and just roll them off the bridge. And then all of our veterans, we would probably just go ahead and terminate life. There'd be no purpose at that point. There'd be no affordable housing, no vouchers. While we're at it, we would go ahead and burn all the churches down, forget about morals and ethics. Just anybody that God didn't see to get perfect DNA, they would simply be rounded up and then just terminated. That's what happened if we didn't have Section 8. Because the vast majority of what Section 8 is to support people that may not have an imperfect life. And despite the belief and the charade that the news puts on, the biggest portion of Section 8 and the biggest portion of even my company's clients are people that actually need this. These are not people with 55 children that have a welfare card and decide that they will get something free. These are people that may have husbands have died and they didn't have enough funding to go on. These are people that was born with spina bifida, MS, MD, and so on, and they were never given the same opportunities. And so Section 8 is not filled with crackheads and people tear shit up. That's what the news would have you believe. In fact, if we had only 1,000 people on planet Earth, um, and only one case of a drug addict, the news would pick the drug addict to feature because that's what sells. That's the bullshit we put up with. I've spent my entire career trying to unroll the bullshit of what the news does. It favors shock and awe campaigns, basically, and it gives a perception. I've been trying to unroll the 80s for a long time. The vast majority of people in Section 8 are veterans, seniors, and other people that otherwise wouldn't get the help. So if we didn't have it, it'd be bad news. And the worldview of us would be bad news as well. Because then we would have to take all the refugees from wars and other things, and we'd have to terminate them too. So Section 8 plays a critical role. Here's an interesting concept to think about. Nobody is sitting in their house quietly ashamed of receiving their Social Security check, right? They worked, they paid taxes, now they're receiving a Social Security check. Now, the same reason you work pays taxes so you can, if you happen to need to get a voucher, but it carries all the shame. But where did this shame arrive from? It arrived from the news. The news decided that it would like to capitalize, fill its coffers with gold coins and sell 30 pieces of silver, and convince the world that everybody is trying to to create to procreate like rabbits, the 40 children, everybody's smoking crack and a drug addict. I absolutely cannot stand that. You know? So yeah, we need programs because again, not everybody is designed a perfect set of DNA, right? Not everybody's intelligent either. And so if some of us don't care enough to go out there and help these people, then and let me tell you something. Look, whether it's your family or a friend of a friend, virtually everybody in this nation knows somebody that's needed help. And if any of y'all telling me you've lived a life where you've never almost hit the ditch, then you're lying. Almost everybody's going to hit the bottom or come close to it at one point. Even my best friends that have got extraordinary degrees, they have been, real close. You've been close, right? And you needed help. That's all this is. There's no shame in that. If we lived in a perfect world, we wouldn't need any of this. We also wouldn't need to elect officials and we wouldn't have division. But we don't live in that world, do we? We live in a world where we discard people that fight wars for us. We discard the old after they've served. The seniors have served our country. They kept the shit together, didn't they? And they raised us. And now we're running the planet, and then soon our children will run it, right? But we discard these people, and the baby's born, or while they're cute and they're young, we want to do things. When they get old and disabled, they're just simply trash on a sidewalk. I absolutely can't fucking stand the way that America and its principal view of things, that people no longer matter, like they're like a pet in a fucking dollar store. Oh, well, don't worry about them. I've got a good job up there on 3rd Street. Now look at that crackhead on the corner. Well, let's levy some judgment. Let's get out our fucking voter card and then determine whether or not we can play God. That these people simply don't fucking matter. And so I think as a company owner, despite profanities in my videos, the ultimate goal is sincerity. And that's to help people that need it. And so as you can see, it's a hard spot with me. And I try to refrain from unchurch-like language, but, there's a lot of emotion in that. To want to help people without taking advantage of them. And we live in a world where everybody's trying to basically rob everybody these days. We've all faced triple prices of things. And we're all slowly being robbed to death right now because the pandemic instigated all these things. So, all right, let's roll it back. So, hey, by the way, the original person that commented asked the question, that little rant there, that wasn't anything to do with you. It brought me from one spot to another in my mind, and I wanted to convey those emotions. All right, Shug Shields, I like that name. Have Section 8, have mold, roof bathroom due to a leak in the roof okay, so it appears you've got a leak in the roof and you got lots of mold. That mold can be dangerous, especially the black stuff. We both know that, right? So, I don't know if you're I don't know all your case details, but if you're participating in a federal program, a voucher, or low-income housing, there's certainly some remedies there. And even if you're not, there's still even more remedies, right? And so I would encourage you to reach out to me, because if you're going to die in an apartment where nobody's going to do nothing, then something needs to be done. Cutie Pie says Siamese are special. Yeah, they're super special. Anybody considering buying or having or owning or loving a Siamese, make sure you only get one, because two, let me tell you, they don't get along. All right, keep it real. You are 100% correct. I appreciate that. But most of the time, I'm only about 95% right. And that's only if I'm pumping my own ego. I'm only right if you believe I am, right? Jessica Rubio. I like the last name. Hi, I ended up homeless and staying in an interim hotel, but my caseworker is not helping with housing. Let me give you a stark reality, Jessica. I don't want you. I don't want you to interpret what I'm going to say as something that's necessarily bad. Okay, when you do the job that I've done for so long and over 20 years, you're going to find that the vast majority of housing authorities are underfunded. The people they hire, they pay very low. The ratio of turnover is very high. And of course, there's a high propensity of also clients applying that have grave mental health issues. And so it becomes adversarial, right? And a lot of housing authorities really do treat people disrespectfully, and they're not much of a help. And that's a pretty common thing. That's pretty shocking when you first roll into the system, because you're thinking, okay, well, if we spend $1 trillion on popping bombs in other countries and defending the entire globe, then why are we only spending $1 on the seniors and veterans? And why are the people that administer these vouchers so hateful, right? Why do they talk to me like I'm a hooker on 3rd Street? Why can't they answer a single question? Why is the phone that they own constantly in the toilet, in the water, and they never answer it? Why is it when I quote federal law to them, they seem confused and then quietly hang up on me? Because that's what housing authorities do. Most of them are privately owned. Whatever cash they can suck out of the situation, their only real job is to determine eligibility. They won't teach you. A lot of them aren't going to teach you anything. 80% of the battles of our company is just trying to fight housing authorities to get them to follow federal laws. Don't be surprised when you quote Title 24, any one of 10,000 lines of federal code, and then the worker at the housing authority is just scratching their head. Well, what are you talking about? They've never even read it. It's like they're running a halfway house. And again, you see Sally at McDonald's. She hands you a cheeseburger, and much to your disgust, at noon you roll through the housing authority only to find out now she's your caseworker. It's cold reality, okay? But Jessica, that's the main thing you need to understand. There's plenty of possibilities. If you're struggling, you got problems out there, reach out to me. There's one thing people know and have learned about me, besides my across the U.S. reputation. I'm well known for what I do, but the main thing that I'm known for is getting the job done. Okay, but you don't have to hire me to do anything. I'm not suggesting that. I'm just saying if you've had enough, give me a call. But I'm going to go on and read the rest of your comment as well. The caseworker at my therapy clinic is trying to get me help and housing. Well, unless she has read policies, procedures, data manuals, Title 24, federal code, legislation, and has spent a minimum of 10 years, at least 10 years in the system, and worked with attorneys and hire other housing authority directors as consultants, that her help would likely be her assisting you holding the ink pen while you sign your name. Look, I get calls all the time for people with master's degrees that just got out of school for being a caseworker or a counselor or a social worker. Unfortunately, all that stuff doesn't equate to them ever learning or being taught anything regarding how to be effective at Section 8, the system, or how it works. So the reality is, if they're not a consultant, then what they know is little more than the person that's probably a caseworker at summer camp, right? So I'm not, again, I don't want to discourage you. If the person can help you get to an application, that's a start. I would advise reaching out. Mr. and Mrs. Newman says, how can an emergency hotel vouchers in San Mateo County, California, need for okay, I don't quite understand that. How can I get emergency hotel vouchers in San Mateo? Let's start with that. Well, two things we need to consider with that. Pre-pandemic, emergency housing vouchers were issued by housing authorities. When the pandemic happened and we decided to put 40 million people out of their homes and evict them, then they decided to relegate homeless services and emergency housing vouchers to CES, which is called Coordinated Entry System, better known also as Continuum of Care, or COC. That program works under a premise of using SPDAT, SPDAT, which assesses you based on questions and answers. That system then thus grabs those points. It rolls it through another system called HIMS, which is a homeless information management system. They say I did that without taking a breath. That means I must know, right? So we have their operational manuals, and they are a little bit different for each city. Give them the right answers and the right case details, stacking your case the right way, then you'll likely be able to do that. But here's the deal: I don't think you really want hotel vouchers. Why would you pursue a lesser of them? I think would be best for you is just seek out an emergency housing voucher and skip the whole hotel jazz. Now, in some cases in major cities like throughout California or New York, they may offer that, but as we have a climate right now where there's a lot of migration issues across our borders, a lot of these hotel vouchers have been evaporated. Okay. So EHV, for those that don't know, are emergency housing voucher, just to be clear. And so you guys know there's a combination of many different types of funding and vouchers. And so why don't I just roll through those real quick? So we have a mainstream voucher, housing choice voucher. Then we have subsection 811, which is basically like tax code, but except it's written under Title 24 for HUD. And Section 811 is those that are age 18 to about 61 that are disabled. Section 202, which is a subsection for seniors with disability. You have BAWA for domestic violence. You have HOPWA, HOPWA, that's for persons with AIDS or HIV, and legislation funding to allow them housing there. And then we move into some other tiers below that, which is affordable housing, low-income housing, and subsidized housing. All those beautiful names mean one thing. Three names, one thing. It means it is pretty much a lit property, which is subsidized for those that are low income. It affords no voucher. So the apartment and the building itself is funded. You move in, you're subsidized. The minute you grab your things and you move out of there, you're no longer subsidized. You start again. I don't buy subsidies unless you're 90 and you're never going to move again. Because if you hate your neighbor, you don't like the screaming children, the barking dog, or maybe there's gunshots and gang activity, you're stuck there. If it turns out maintenance, they just hired a maintenance man from the dollar store, and the only thing he's got is a roll of duct tape, and you never get nothing repaired at a subsidy, then you're going to be in quite a lot of misery. And that often happens with subsidized properties. All right, moving on from there. Jessica Rubio says, thank you. Cheryl Whitstone, thank you. Your channel has been helpful. And Cheryl goes on to say, can you apply out of the state you are living in? Let's discuss portability, accommodations, and what the possibilities are. So there is what the housing authorities, there are roughly 2,800 or more across the country. First thing you need to understand, they don't all operate the same. Actually, the very first thing you must understand is a lot of you fundamentally believe the housing authority is HUD. It is not. HUD is a federal agency that receives funding from Congress. It allocates and disperses those funds down to housing authorities. Housing authorities are either privately owned or owned by the city. The bigger the city, more likely it's going to be owned by the city itself, right? The housing authority at that point will make a determination of eligibility. They'll generally offer you one of three things. They can offer you a housing choice voucher, which can be subfunded through 811, 202, or any other program that I previously mentioned, or they can offer you project-based housing. I don't recommend project-based housing, but if you want to sample it, all you need to do is go commit a crime, go to the county jail, and then stay in a cell. That's the kind of actors you're probably going to have on the property. Does that mean that everybody in project based is bad? No. There are lots of people that have been fooled into the shortcut, thinking, okay, well, I'll just take this and just wait. Project based housing can be tough and very tough. And why is it called project based? Because back in the 80s, it was considered a project. And then through culture and other things, we decided to call it the projects. And then, of course, like all criminality, the people tend to congregate there. But here's the real story of project-based housing. When housing authorities fundamentally believe they've got a person that they know is going to be problematic, they will generally push them into project housing rather than issue them a voucher. So you have a high congregate group in project. Our company won't help anybody get that. I believe everybody should have a voucher. That way you have the choice of living where you want and also being able to take that voucher and move it. So let's get to the original question that was asked. Portability. There are 11 causes or reasons under federal code, including domestic violence, in which a person may receive a voucher from a million miles away in another state or county, and then after receiving the offer of that voucher, that would be able to request or initiate portability, but that must be based on requesting an accommodation first. Good cause, job, health, doctors, and other things, or even domestic violence. So there's many reasons. Now, most housing authorities will fight you in that position. Hey, man, you applied here. We're not, you got to wait 12 months. We're not going to do nothing. But see, that's the thing. It's just like a courtroom. When they tell you we want the truth and the whole truth, you'll never really give them the housing authority. They'll put on the biggest parade of, hey, 12 months, that's the rule. Nobody's going to change that. But the reality is it's 12 months, then but the other 11 reasons. The reason they're not going to discuss the other 11 reasons with most people is because everybody would want portability. People that understand how to kind of weaponize that, like my company, were able to basically grab vouchers around the country and get them moved. Does that mean we're successful all the time? No. We have a 40% declination or decline rate on that, and a 60% acceptance rate. So it may take a couple of tries. A few housing authorities will fight, and if the housing authority issues a voucher based on special funding, but you cannot be ported. But how do we know that ahead of time? We can't know it. Unfortunately, that's what costs us time. So when we do casework for clients, cases usually roll all between 4 months, 8 months, and even as far as 12 months. But yes, but unless you understand portability and moves, building, absorbing, accommodations and its requests, then it's going to be hard for the average person to be able to force that. Now, my position here is not to make everybody run to my door, ring my doorbell, and pay me, okay? The reality of it is, I've done enough videos and training for free that if you watch enough, about 30% of the people who watch my videos manage to get through their own questions, comments, and other things on their own. The other 70% may have too many health problems, mental health problems, or other problems, or maybe they have a busy life and they find fit that it'd be easier just to turn it over to us. So really, it's just strictly up to where you are with things and whether or not you're in a tight situation where you got to hurry. But yes, the answer is yes, you may port just about virtually any voucher that's received in any state despite not living there. And I've already been questioned back and forth about, oh, well, what if I don't work or live in the area? Look, that's the first thing the housing authorities always cry about. Oh, you don't live where. Let me tell you something. If you take, let's say, New York, let's say a client applies in New York, but they live in Florida. Now, do you believe that Bob, that lives in New York and applies, he receives a voucher, is up for a voucher, okay? But his only problem is he's low income. And then you got Nancy sitting in Florida, right? She applies but wants portability, and they're going to fight. Now, who has the highest preference? Bob's got the I live locally and I work locally, so he thinks he's big stuff. He's got a good case. And then you've got Sally. She's got one missing eyeball, no legs, and she's got cancer. Who do you think, preferentially, based on preferences or special preferences, has a better case? So, living and working in a specific area is nothing. The preference represents about 2% of your case, but the housing authority will write it all in their policies, all over the application, to have you believe that if you don't live and work locally, that's just the end of your case. You should just give up and go ahead and drive your bicycle straight off the bridge because you're simply unimportant and not going to do shit for you. It's always been the housing authority's job to basically show whatever. They always want to show things the way it's basically taking the story and convey it in the way they want you to see it. Now, what if I ran a business and ran a business dealing with people, and my whole objective of my business was, I don't want to speak to people, so I'm going to talk to everybody like shit. I'm never going to answer their questions. And whenever they ask about a waiting list, I'm going to give them a completely wild fucking number, despite not actually knowing how many years. I'll just tell them it's going to be 15 fucking years. Ma'am, would you still like that application? So the goal is mind play, right? So we're training people, the housing authority, to say the most egregious things because they know the mental concept it has. Because anybody hears, oh, it's a 15-year list, I don't work and live locally and I can't port it, then I'm just going to break the phone, slamming it, and just tell myself inside, fuck it, I give up. It achieves that mental goal, but here's the reality. It's much more, it's not as stark as they would have you believe. That's the picture they want you to see. How do you think they thin to hurt, right? So if we walk around assuming that everybody in the housing authority is running prayer circles and they're perfectly moral and they are the absolute law of everything, that you're being fooled. That's not reality. How can I say that? Do my job for 23 years, surpass 20,000 clients with a failure rate that's less than 5%. Every lie that can be told from a housing authority employee is already been, they can't even invent a new way to lie to me. Okay. You take that, you weaponize that with an attorney or a law firm. Okay. And then you contract former directors of housing authorities to tell you the system on the inside. And then you go over to Nana McKay and other organizations, right, to underwrite their policies, procedures, and data manual. Look, I know more than the people that work there, but probably you've got a bunch of people in the front end. Their only objective is just simply processing people, but you only have 3 people in the building at the executive level that actually know any policies, but yet they're not the front end of the deal. So the reality of it is, if you let people convince you of things and you believe everything you hear, then it goes back to that as a sucker born every minute. And unfortunately, you cannot treat the housing authority with the same integrity you do the military. Don't believe everything you hear. And remember what I said about court. It's the truth, but never the whole truth. They're never going to put the but. Oh, but here's how all the ways you can exploit us and get portability. They're never going to tell you that. That's not their job. Their job is to get rid of you. Now, if their job is processing vouchers, the more people they can get rid of and not deal with, the better. That means Sally can sit at her computer all day and play Farm Bill. Now, is that an extreme example? Of course, but that's the thing, to invoke an emotional response from you, the audience, so you understand some of the surreal values of this. Now, do I think every housing authority and housing authority employee is stupid and ignorant and works at McDonald's and that they're violating everybody's rights? No. But we can type in Google right now, housing authority lawsuit. We'll find 100 of them. We'll find at least 15 of them that have embezzled the funds that were paying for vouchers, and the housing authority is insolvent, which means they burnt every nickel. And now that the scam's at the end, the feds have to step in and basically indict everybody in the building, and there's no money left in any checking account. Because why? Nancy and Sally were out there using the housing authority credit card. And the videos I made, there was at least 3 housing authorities that we discussed about a couple months ago. They literally stole every fucking penny. Now, we're not stealing money from working class people. We're stealing from people in wheelchairs that have a breathing tooth. We're stealing it from parents with babies that have MS and indeed depend on housing. And we're out there and we're buying fucking Gucci slippers. Now, do you understand the intensity of what I deal with? And you think that you're supposed to believe these people are saints and that everything they tell you is reality? You're mistaken. They're human. But again, I don't want everybody to have a view of all housing authorities being bad. There's lots of housing authorities that operate ethically or do the best they can. So that's not the goal here, is to beat up the housing authority. But I got to be honest. That's a 10% sampling of all housing authorities, and we're talking about it. And chances are, the bigger the city, the worse it is. So let's just be honest, right? I had to take a sip. All those profanities made my throat dry. All right, Melanie Page. I had one get back to me since didn't live locally, canceled my application. Well, I'm sorry to hear they canceled your application. I would advise that you, as a matter of record with tracking, write a letter to them and ask for an explanation for that, and then I would request arbitration, depending the cause of why they terminated. Okay. Well, guys, it's been an interesting video. It didn't go quite the direction I had anticipated, and I think a lot of you asked questions. For those of you that want to ask questions, please do. One thing I'm going to tell you guys as we kind of wind this down, if you're looking for a channel that gives you advice, that's fine. There's lots of them, okay? There's lots of people that their day job is they're party clowns for children's parties, and then there's an actual real consultant. Most of these channels out here, these people, one day they're experts at baking cupcakes, they're experts at fidget spinners, they're hula hoop experts, and now they're Section 8 consultants. If you want a real consultant, it's me. But here's the trade-off. If you don't like profanities, you don't have to be here. That's the thing. And nobody's complained about it. I'm going to let you know I'm going to run my channel the way I see fit, and I'm going to give advice the same way. Because the reality of it is, guys, if you're unable to digest the truth, then you're going to have a hard time getting through the system. Okay. My job as a consultant is not to lie to people, even if it pisses them off, even if it upsets them, even if it doesn't jive with what they want to hear, because most of them have been lied to enough. And so you have to be able to depend on the person to be the level with you. And I do it all the time. It's not favorable when people pay me and I have to sit there and talk to them like they're my grandchildren. But the reality of it is we have to get back to the basics where we're able to accept the good with the bad. I do the same thing. If I've got a problem with my car and mechanic and I have an attitude, my mechanic say, hey, look, man, partner, you keep talking that way, we're not gonna fix anything in this car because things are not right. I have to accept that. You have to admit when you're wrong and when you're right, right? So that's where we need to be in order to be able to receive actual real consulting. We have to be able to accept the truth. We have to stop trying to run our own programs. I got people that hire my office and they want to reinvent the wheel. Yeah, I like to hire you. They pay for casework and then they inject themselves into it. Well, I've written a list of how shit should go. No, no, well, then here's your refund. Please call 211 or 311. There are operators standing by. They'll give you a free roll of socks and a yoga mat at the shelter. We're not going to reinvent the wheel. I spent too much time and effort in my personal life. I worked all the way through the pandemic, working 18 hours many of those days to try to keep people from hitting the sidewalk. To have somebody come in and just kind of reinvent the system based on their own. Oh, I read Google. I read HUD.gov. The HUD.gov half the time don't even update its own social media. Take the advice sometime. My car breaks, I go hire a mechanic. When your voucher breaks, give me a call. Or I tell you what, go look at all the other consultants. You'll be back. Most of you always come back around to me. And if you're just here for advice, that's what I'm offering. There's no cost to these videos. It only take a few minutes to figure out I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. All right, so that being said, Cutie Pie, I want to thank you for your membership. So we're going to recognize you now. I'm glad you joined us, and for those interested in those memberships, they're about $2.99. Look, guys, again, it's for those of you who are pet lovers. If you don't get down with the pets and rescues with dogs and cats, snakes, birds, and spiders, you don't like that, you ain't gonna do nothing. My life doesn't hinge on whether people get memberships. Same thing with subscribe. How many times have you guys been to a channel and you got to hear somebody tell you 15 flipping times, please push every button in the channel, subscribe to every button. Please give me $5 for this. Please give me a super chat dollar. Like, I don't got time for all that drama. You guys want a membership? You want to give a donation? Do it. I'm not going to sit here and panhandle on my own channel. That's the most sad thing I've ever seen. But that's what YouTube encourages people to do. To get on there, make a video, and then panhandle. Please snap every button on the channel. Subscribe, like. Who the hell wants? It makes me so mad. I don't. If you want to subscribe, you're going to know when you want to do it. All right. I got to take another sip because I'm about to dry my throat out. All right, guys. The last bit of advice I want to give you guys. I hope y'all like my new tan. For those that remember, I was pretty fat in the last bit. I'm getting thinner, okay? I've lost 34 pounds. And y'all should be worried for those of you that need me or have casework and want to keep me alive. So the diet's going well. I look good. I feel good. And again, we're doing decor change. I know we deal with a lot of clients that have autism, Asperger's, and so on. And so sometimes it's a little bit hard to follow my long-winded videos. And I got lots of that. And Lord, I've got more opinions than Bob at church. Okay? But the main thing is take the gold out the channel. There's plenty of things that don't matter. But when I'm talking directly in facts and educational videos, you can take that as a fact. And I can back everything that I say, either under federal law, legislation, director's reports, and so on. So let's just be clear on that. These other times, if you're entertained by my wicked sense of humor, or I disgust you with my profanities, that's good. It's good to get them out there. That way you can run back to church on Sunday and feel good about yourself, right? And by the way, I visit the church house too. Jesus does forgive. You know that he does. All right, so let's go on and talk about these other comments here real quick. Oh, Miss Robinson, how are you today? I can't see me in the chat. Well, but YouTube appears to be having some problems today, Miss Robinson. So, peace, love, and hope says, well, that's peace, love, and hope. Somebody's name in the channel, so that's pretty neat. Miss Robinson, thank you, and peace, love, and hope, and I appreciate that. Melanie Page, you terminated it for the fact that I didn't live locally. You know how many times housing authority employees violate people's federal rights. They'll make you beg for an accommodation and turn around and not even put a fucking handicap ramp at their own building, okay? So that shouldn't shock you. Now, if you do nothing, then that means you, along with everybody else going into the future, you're your inaction to address that at the federal level is going to be the same reason they basically do the same thing to everybody else. A lot of housing authorities, people too fearful to even report anything. They really do got this. Housing authorities got this wrapped up as one of the most fabulous scams I've ever seen. Yeah, it serves a purpose. People do get vouchers, and it does help people. But I mean, they're more like gatekeepers, you know. And then think about this: if the housing authority is giving you a voucher and then putting you in project-based housing, you're making them also your landlord. So you're indentured in a property like the county jail. And anytime you smack your lips about anything they don't like, they will find any. They control your voucher. Plus, you live in their property. They're gonna put you out on that sidewalk quicker than a dirty flip flop. Look, don't mess around. Understand the system as fundamental. That way, you don't end up being taken advantage of. Okay, project-based housing is not the way to go. Keep it real, is laughing, and of course, and I have my southern humor. So if you're not used to that, y'all should hear me when I talk about the person that's only wearing one flip flop walking through the ditch. One day we'll get into that. So if you have a wicked sense of humor, you'll like me. If not, then you're gonna struggle a bit. Okay, that's okay to struggle. We've all watched bad videos. Hell, I've watched a few of my bad videos too. Good Redmond. Yes, in certain jurisdictions, housing authorities have programs where you can apply for a voucher towards a mortgage or a home. Suggest checking specifically in your area. Uh, that would be accurate. In fact, 20 years ago, housing authorities run FFS, which is the HUD homeownership program. Now, it's not available in every city, but homeownership can be obtained. But here's the part you're not going to like: there isn't really a national list of housing authorities that currently have, whether they participate or not. And for those that need to know, if you're going to participate in the HUD homeownership program, FSS, you must first successfully complete 12 months lease. Okay, so you got to be a renter. I keep burping in the video, but it happens. Okay, hopefully y'all forgive me. Mantis, go share your wife's cat. That sounded kind of off. Go share my wife's cat. Oh, go shave your wife's cat. I hope that's a typo because I'm not quite sure. I don't know if you're harassing me, Mantis, or you're trying to make a joke, or you have to get back and let me know where we're going with that one. Go shave your wife's cat. I don't know. I don't know what to think about that one. Cheryl Whitstone, I heard a lot of disinformation word of mouth. I appreciate your knowledge. Look, you want disinformation? Join a Section 8 group on Facebook. This is like putting mentally ill people. It's like holding a Facebook group at the psychiatric ward and then asking the world's best con artists to all congregate in one place and then chat. It's like little psychopath. I joined one of those groups just to see what those people talking about. Look, you'd be better off getting advice from a prostitute on Third Street that's actively smoking crack. Really, it's that bad. Now there are a few Facebook groups, but a lot of these groups, man, these people don't know anything. These people have never read a policy or procedure in life. They're literally trading. They're literally trading advice about hearsay. Here's the problem with trading what you think you know based on experience with housing authorities. Since every housing authority in America has its own policies, procedures, and data standards, it means they fundamentally operate differently. So if Bob had a voucher, say 5 years ago, and his experience is conveyed as actual advice to everybody else, anybody that doesn't live in that particular county with that housing authority during that period, the advice would be rendered moot. Now, do you see how this stuff gets melted together and it's just worthless? So unless these groups are unless they're able to get the actual policies, procedures, then their actual experiences are worthless unless you actually live there. Again, it's like a franchise. It's a franchise that's disconnected. Housing authorities write their policies, procedures, and all based on their local community, which means what works at one won't work at the next. Rarely. Let's see here. Ms. Robinson, what if you're disabled and not required to participate in the FSS program? Well, then you can still ask to participate in a HUD homeownership program and see whether or not you qualify. That's everybody's right. Keep It Real says, I think that was a troll. Well, I love trolls, man. Look, if anytime anybody needs to troll the channel, if you're having a meltdown, you're having a bad day, come on down here to my channel and troll. because I can get shitty right back. I enjoy it. It gives me something spicy. It's like, look, I eat a lot of bland food, so if I get trolled in my channel, it's like you put a little spice in my salad. Go ahead, bring it on. One thing you got to know is I was raised in a trailer park in South Louisiana. That means I can get down with you. We can get low down in this channel. I can keep it professional, but I can also get low down. Don't ever forget where you came from, right? That's right. So, yeah, if I'm going to get trolled, troll me. Please do it. I'm inviting that. Matter of fact, that's why we like spicy videos. Gosh, child, if you're inherited a property while you're on housing, can they still terminate your voucher? Well, if you have assets, and that's what that is, it really it contends with certain things. So you're technically housed, but is the house, if you've inherited a house, is there a note on it? I mean, do you still is there value or equity in the home? Who's on the title? Have you considered putting that in a trust so they can't pierce the corporate shield? There's a lot of things. It really depends on so many things. I would probably have to talk to you, God's child, to kind of unwind that and see if there's a solution that could be arrived at. I mean, if you put the home into an entity, the entity into trust, you wouldn't pierce the corporate shield, but then you don't also want to make sure that you're not doing it in such a way where you're violating federal rules or committing fraud. And that's hard to tell because I don't have enough information to give you the best advice based on what you're saying. Robert Kramer, hi, I'm from Cali. We love California, man. Love Cali. Applied in a couple of counties for HCP. Can I apply in another state? Certainly. You most certainly can. Look, vouchers fundamentally. Okay, let's think about this. Money from Congress, the feds, feeding HUD. HUD allocates the money to the housing authority. That means these vouchers are federally funded. It means that everybody in America has a right to apply to any housing authority they want. But under certain circumstances, the housing authority can deny portability. Anybody. That's one thing they've done an excellent job is making you believe. Most of you fundamentally believe that you can only apply to the housing authority in your little old town and county. It's simply not true. When things are federally funded with taxpayer money, it means it must be available to everybody in the U.S. Now, can they preference living? That's why, in fact, that's the very reason why they keep talking about living and working locally. Do you see the catch there? There'd be no reason to even bring that into conversation unless that's just a slick way of saying, hey, we don't want to tell you that, hey, by the way, you can apply to every housing authority, but we have a living locally and working preference. They wouldn't even have that preference if it wasn't possible for you to do it to start with. You see? So, all right. Shook Shield says because of mold. Well, one thing that I've been advising people with mold and mold related issues is go get a professional test done. Pick up a membership through Legal Shield, have a demand letter sent along with that mold test, and then see what happens. And drag their ass to a small claims court. Most will give you 20 grand. Here's the interesting thing about housing authorities most of you don't realize. Unless it's New York or LA, most housing authorities barely have a legal budget, which means you can pretty much steamroll them. Again, housing authorities are not the feds. So if the housing authority is already on a very tight budget, they don't have in-house counsel or an attorney there, so they've only got 50 cents in the coin jar, right? And you go sue them, most of them won't show up for court. What happens when you don't show up for court? You get a default judgment. Now, after the default judgment, let me tell you what's supposed to happen. So they don't show up. They think you're just being cute and it's all a joke, right? They don't show up. The judge orders they pay the 20 grand. So their position to be that they're not going to pay it. I'll tell you what happens. For about $200 to $300, U.S. Marshals walks into the housing authority and he will levy everything in the building with a cord until he reaches enough to auction off. Chairs, computers, cash in the drawer, all of it. Seize the bank accounts and he'll ask you on the phone, what all in this office do you want us to take? And they'll bring a moving truck and they'll bring it to auction and they will give the housing authority the change. Don't ever not show up for a court date. And again, the housing authority is not the president. It ain't the feds, and they can be sued. That's why they're a public housing authority, right? There's so much you guys don't know. All right, peace, love, and hope says, according to the shelter I'm in, and then you got cut off. I don't know what the rest is. Odie Dancer. Wouldn't they have litigation insurance, though? be honest with you, most of them do not have litigation insurance, and I'm going to tell you why. If you look around and you see the number of lawsuits that hit the really big ones like DC and Maryland, they don't have any litigation insurance. They got sued, and so they decided to go criminally on that. So they, instead of litigating, they ended up trying to get a judgment against them. Well, I shouldn't say that. They actually did an indictment on them. So sometimes, so you're talking about litigation. Many of these housing authorities, I forget the legal term part. I know it's not insolvent, but it's they're judgment proof. In other words, so yeah, if they had litigation insurance but judgment proof, since they don't actually have enough assets and probably don't own the building, then they'd be judgment proof. The only thing you could do is probably just uh, garnish wages potentially, maybe sell off anything they don't have in their home, but then you'd have to figure out the incorporation of the building and all that stuff. So there's some potential. I don't want anybody confused my conversation with me being an attorney. I'm not an attorney, okay? However, I deal with enough of them. We collaborate with them. We speak to them through legal aid society videos and different things, but I'm not an attorney. Okay, so please don't run out there and ruin your life with my good legal advice. Um, the legal should always be handled by a qualified attorney that has the right to practice in that state, which is part of the reason why we try to build relationships with attorneys over the years. So when you need their help or collaboration with them, it makes things a little bit more affordable because most of you don't have the money laying around to pay somebody $200-300 an hour. All right, let's move on now. Peace, love, and hope. It looks like one of your messages were retracted. I have nothing to do with that. My hands are free from the mouse. That means that YouTube didn't like something you may have said, or maybe it confused the word with being a bad one. Robert Kramer, awesome, great advice. Trying to stay warm. Y'all, please, you know what? With that Arctic blast coming and ice, it has some potential to do some damage. My concern to all the pet owners out there that are bad, all the dogs and cats that are going to be left out with no food and water and then freeze to death. And this event for these bad people that own horses, pigs, chickens, cats, and dogs, they have no respect for the care, the love of an animal, that are sitting on chains or in cages in the backyard will likely expire, probably tens of thousands because of this event. I think that people that abuse animals, children, women, and seniors, I think that there should be a very special place, not even in hell, man. I cannot stand those people. And as a company policy, if I find out, if I or any of my staff finds out that a client has abused an animal, a senior, child, or a senior, we will terminate your fucking case, and I will do everything in my power to ensure that you never in this lifetime, ever in this lifetime, get a voucher, even if I've got to fax every housing authority in America. That's how strongly I feel about that. I hate to bring up something so private, but hey, you know what? We all have to have a mission in life, and I cannot stand people that abuse people, especially in egregious ways, you know? So, yep, we're going to try to stay safe. We're going to pull all the keys in and watch movies, maybe some Netflix, if we can keep the power going, right? If we can just keep that power going. So we're going to run her, Jenny. Y'all remember last year we were in the closet. We had a big walk-in closet, so I stuffed me and 30 cats in there, and they kept me warm. And, you know, the magical thing happened. Normally these cats bite each other. But during that freeze, while it was nearly 30 degrees in my house, when nobody had any power through most of Texas, all the cats cooperated. Even they understood that our a minor level of our survivability depended on everybody cooperating in that big walk-in closet. And so why would I jam us all in a little closet? Because you can build up more heat in there, right? Because you can't really burn enough candles, and we didn't have a heater. We were using a gas grill to cook, but I mean it was miserable. This year, we're not bunching up. We'll be able to run a little bit. We went and bought a generator, and sure enough, here's that big old event again. For those of you up north, this is nothing to you guys. Y'all probably laugh it off, make some hot cocoa, and probably laugh at all the southern people. Meanwhile, down south here in Texas, all the way from Texas to Florida, we'll all be sliding off the road into the ditch, turning our cars open, dying in a ball of flames, ending up in the ER. You know how that goes. Nobody knows what to do when they see an icicle on the road. So it's going to be a health crisis out here. That and our phone lines and power lines will probably melt and fall down because we don't have anything set up for that, you know. Well, let's hope all that don't happen, right? All right, guys, I've rambled on enough about just about everything I can think and then some. And so we'll see you guys Sunday at 2 p.m. Central Standard. That video is going to be a lot different, okay? Thursday's reserved for more of the crazy topics and tones. Sundays, Mondays, Tuesdays, we're going to be educating and we're going to be stick strict to business. If you don't like the extra, the spicy videos, just don't come to the Thursday ones, okay? If you want all professional, come to all the other ones. Just don't come to the Thursday at 2 p.m. But hey, you're missing a lot if you don't. Let me tell you something I thought about. One more thing, Brogo. None, even church people go to the movies. When's the last time you've been to a movie where they weren't using 50 profanities? And while I watch it, well, I don't like all that bad talk in your channel, but you'll go down there and pay $95 for popcorn, $400 to bring you and all the children in there, and you'll listen to 681 profanities, at least 3 to 4 different sessions of sex, drugs, alcohol, and other shit. But it's easy to love me when I make a video and use a handful of profanities, right? In the real world, this goes on plenty. It's just we have selective thinking and we have selective judgment. I don't care who you are, every video and TV is full of it. I'm a watered down version to most of reality. So, but yeah, if you don't like that, don't come to Thursday. Come to our boosted up our Sunday videos, right? All right, guys, I'm just messing with you. We'll see you later, and I've enjoyed seeing y'all. And if you haven't got that membership, check it out, man. My Kikis will love you. And by the way, the boys are named Kikis and the girls are named Chi-Chis. And why do I do that? Because when you own a lot of cats, it becomes difficult to call them by names. So I find that I know this is sad, but all my cats respond Kiki and Chi-Chi. So it works out well, right? You don't have to use 2 names. I could name everybody something different, and I do, but in terms of feeding and all that, it's Kiki and Chi-Chi, and they don't know any better. All right, y'all have a good day.